Hello everyone. Today I will be doing a presentation on the topic climate change. In this presentation, we will be looking at a brief introduction to what climate change exactly is and the effects and consequences as well as some current statistics. And then we will be looking at global warming, acid rain and ozone layer depletion. And then finally, we will be looking at nuclear accidents and holocausts. Climate change is a broad term used to refer to changes in the Earth's climates at local, regional, or global scales, and it can also refer to the effects of these changes. In recent decades, the term climate change is most often used to describe changes in the Earth's climate, driven primarily by human activity since the pre industrial period, particularly the burning of fossil fuels and removal of forests, resulting in a relatively rapid increase in carbon dioxide concentration in the Earth's atmosphere. Burning fossil fuels generates greenhouse gas emissions that act like a blanket wrapped around the Earth, trapping the sun's heat and raising temperatures. Examples of greenhouse gas emissions that are causing climate change include carbon dioxide and methane. They come from using gasoline for driving a car or coal for heating a building, etc. Greenhouse gas concentrations are at their highest levels in 2 million years, and emissions continue to rise. As a result, the Earth is now about 1.1 degrees Celsius warmer than it was in the late 1800s. The last decade, that is from 2011 to 2020, was the warmest on record. Many people think climate change mainly means warmer temperatures, but temperature rise is only the beginning of the story. Because the Earth is a system where everything is connected, changes in one area can influence changes in all the others. People are experiencing climate change in diverse ways. Climate change can affect our health, ability to grow food, housing, safety, and work. Some of us are already more vulnerable to climate impacts, such as people living in small island nations and other developing countries. Increase in global warming matters. The emissions that cause climate change come from every part of the world and affect everyone. But some countries produce more than others. The 100 least emitting countries generate 3% of the total emissions. The 10 countries with the largest emissions contribute 68%. Everyone must take climate action, but people and countries creating more of the problem have a greater responsibility to act first. Effects and consequences. There are many effects of climate change. Some of them are listed here. Firstly, hotter temperatures. Nearly all land areas are seeing more hot days and heat waves. 2020 was one of the hottest years on record. Higher temperatures increase heat related illnesses and can make it more difficult to work and move around. Wildfires start more easily and spread more rapidly when conditions are hotter. More severe storms. Changes in temperature cause changes in rainfall. This results in more severe and frequent storms. These cause flooding and landslides, destroying homes and communities and costing billions of dollars. Increased drought. Water is becoming scarcer in many regions. Drought can stir destructive sand and dust storms that can move billions of tons of sand across continents. Deserts are expanding, reducing land for growing food. Many people now face the threat of not having enough water on a regular basis. Next, a warming, rising ocean. The ocean soaks up most of the heat from global warming. This melts ice sheets and raises sea levels, threatening coastal and island communities. The ocean also absorbs carbon dioxide, keeping it from the atmosphere. More carbon dioxide makes the ocean more acidic, which endangers many marine life. Loss of species. Climate change poses risks to the survival of species on land and in the ocean. These risks increase as the temperatures climb. Not enough food. Changes in climate and increases in extreme weather events are among the reasons behind a global rise in hunger and poor nutrition. Fisheries, crops, and livestock may be destroyed or become less productive. Heat stress can diminish water and grasslands for grazing. More health risks. Changing weather patterns are spreading diseases such as malaria. Extreme weather events increase diseases and deaths and make it difficult for healthcare systems to keep up. Poverty and displacement. Climate change increases the factors that put and keep people in poverty. Floods may sweep away urban slums, destroying homes and livelihoods. Heat can make it difficult to work in outdoor jobs. Weather-related disasters displace 2.3 crore people a year, leaving many more vulnerable to poverty. Human societies will be seriously affected by extremes of climate such as droughts and floods. A changing climate would bring about changes in the frequency or intensity of these extremes. So, climate action is very much necessary and it has to be done immediately. Now, let's look at some current statistics. Climate change, experienced primarily through shifts in temperature, rainfall, sea level rise, and weather volatility, can have drastic impacts on human health. Climate change could see more than 100 million people return to extreme poverty by 2030 unless concerted action is taken. The negative impacts of climate change on people's health could play a major role in this reversal. Not all of these impacts will fall on future populations. Climate change is already having measurable impacts on human health right now. Climate change influences health through changing the distribution and occurrence of vector-borne diseases. Warming of 2 to 3 degrees Celsius is estimated to increase the number of people at risk of malaria by up to 5% globally, or more than 150 million people. Climate change is also closely linked with increased incidence of dengue, a mosquito-borne disease whose transmissibility has increased by between 3% and 6% due to climate change since 1990. Climate change The frequency of these weather-related disasters has increased by 46% from 2007 to 2016 compared to the 1990s due to climate change. These disasters result in over 60,000 deaths annually, mainly in developing countries. Let's look at global warming. Global warming is the long-term heating of the Earth's climate system observed since the pre-industrial period between 1850 and 1990 due to human activities, primarily fossil fuel burning, which increases heat trapping greenhouse gas levels in Earth's atmosphere. Since the pre-industrial period, human activities are estimated to have increased the Earth's global average temperature by about 1 degree Celsius, a number that is currently increasing by zero point 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade. It is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land. Global warming occurs when carbon dioxide and other air pollutants collect in the atmosphere and absorb sunlight and solar radiation that have bounced off the Earth's surface. Normally, this radiation would escape into space, but these pollutants, which can last for years to centuries in the atmosphere, trap the heat and cause the planet to get hotter. These heat trapping pollutants, specifically carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, water, vapor, and synthetic fluorinated gases, are known as greenhouse gases, and their impact is called the greenhouse gas effect. Next, acid rain and ozone layer depletion. Now, what exactly is acid rain? Acid rain or acid deposition is a broad term that includes any form of precipitation with acid components, such as sulfuric or nitric acid, that fall to the ground from the atmosphere in wet or dry forms. This can include rain, snow, fog, hail, or even dust that is acidic. Acid rain results when sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides are emitted into the atmosphere and transported by wind and air currents. The SO2 and NOx react with water, oxygen, and other chemicals to form sulfuric and nitric acids. They then mix with water and other materials before falling to the ground. Some of the effects of acid rain include acid rain dissolves and washes away nutrients in the soil which are needed by plants. It can also dissolve anything that's naturally occurring toxic substances like aluminium and mercury, freeing them to pollute water or poison plants. Acid rain indirectly affects plants by removing nutrients from the soil in which they grow. It affects trees more directly by creating holes in the waxy coating of leaves, causing brown dead spots which affect the plant's photosynthesis. Such trees are also more vulnerable to insect infestations, drought, and cold. Acid rain that falls or flows as groundwater to reach rivers, lakes, and wetlands causes the water in them to become acidic. This affects plant and animal life in aquatic ecosystems. And finally, acid rain also has far-reaching effects on wildlife. By adversely affecting one species, the entire food chain is disrupted, ultimately endangering the entire ecosystem. Different aquatic species can tolerate different levels of acidity. Next, let's look at ozone layer depletion. Ozone is formed by the action of sunlight on oxygen. It forms a layer of 20 to 50 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. Ozone in the stratosphere is vital to all life as it protects the Earth from the sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation. This layer in the atmosphere protects life on Earth from the dangerous UV radiation from the sun. In the 1970s, scientists discovered that chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, which were used as refrigerants and aerosol spray propellants, posed a threat to the ozone layer. In 1985, countries adopted the Vienna Convention for the protection of the ozone layer. 2 years later, they adopted the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. This protocol has its own financial mechanism, the multilateral fund, which helps developing countries comply with the protocol. With 197 nations party to the accord, the Montreal Protocol is the only universally ratified treaty in the United Nations history. To date, it has helped reduce more than 97% of all global consumption and production of controlled ozone depleting services. As a result, the levels of these substances in the atmosphere have also begun to fall. And finally, let's look at nuclear accidents and holocausts. Nuclear energy was researched and discovered by man as a source of alternate energy which would be clean and cheap compared to fossil fuels. And although this did happen, along with the benefits of nuclear energy came its downfalls. In the short history of nuclear energy, there have been accidents that have surpassed any natural calamity or other energy source extraction in their impacts. A single nuclear accident can cause loss of life, long-term illness, and destruction of property on a large scale for a long period of time. Radioactivity and radioactive fallout leads to cancer, genetic disorders, and death in the affected area for decades after, thus affecting all forms of life for generations to come. The use of nuclear energy in war has had devastating effects on man and earth. The Hiroshima and Nagasaki incident during World War II, the only use of nuclear power in war in history, is one of the worst disasters in history. In 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs in Japan over the towns of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These two atomic bombs killed thousands of people, left many thousands injured, and devastated everything for miles around. The effects of the radiation from these nuclear bombs can still be seen today in the form of cancer and genetic mutations in the affected children and survivors of the incident. Thank you so much for watching my video.